Hey guys, my name is Matsumiyo, and today Rainbow Six Siege has received a small little update that has changed and nerfed a couple of operators. And so first of all, the secondary weapon for Nomad and Kaid is seeing a pretty significant nerf. They're reducing its damage significantly. It would do 74 damage up close. They're dropping that down to 54, and they're also significantly increasing the recoil. Now for Nomad, this isn't really going to be all that big of a deal. Unless you're someone who used the secondary as a primary weapon, you're probably not going to notice all that much of a difference because you are using her primary weapons, which are pretty good right now. But as for Kaid, it's a bit of a different story. If you were using his AUG for close encounter situations and switching on over to his secondary for the ACOG and taking people at long range, it is going to be much more challenging to take people out at a distance or have that reliable consistency that the secondary provided before. It really seems like Ubisoft increased the recoil pretty significantly. If you try to chain two shots back to back, that second shot is going really high. And we're not even talking like if you aim for the chest, the second shot is going to hit them in the head. No, like the second shot is going to go about 20 feet above their head. You really have to be patient with this thing. You have to let it settle. You're going to have to wait for that recoil to go on down before you can get that consecutive shot off. If that wasn't enough, they're also reducing its damage significantly. Dropping it down from 74 to 54 is a pretty big deal. If you're up close and personal and you're fighting against an Ashe, you're not going to notice much of a difference. It's still going to be a two-shot, but because the damage is so much lower, that means its damage drop-off is going to happen faster, and you're going to hit lower than 50 damage a lot sooner than you would before. This means that even if you are going against an Ashe, as soon as it's further away, if all you're getting are body shots, it's then of course going to require 3 shots to drop them. On top of that, if you're going against someone who has 2 or 3 armor, doesn't even matter if you're up close because that armor mitigation starts to kick in, and it's going to require 1 extra round even in those close encounter situations to drop them. Of course, the further out they go, it may even drop even further because of that. And so the result of this is that this secondary weapon is going to be way less effective. You only have 7 rounds to work with, a lot more recoil, and now you're going to have to put more rounds into them. It's now going to actually function as a secondary weapon, which is exactly how it should have been from the very beginning. I don't know why Ubisoft continuously keeps making this mistake. It seems like every other DLC, and I realize I'm exaggerating here, they'll come out with a new character that has this awesome secondary, months will go by, Ubisoft will realize, oh wow, everyone's using it as a primary, let's go on and nerf it because we don't want them to be something that is that powerful. They're meant to be secondaries. They're supposed to be something that you fall back onto, not something that you rely on. But for some reason, every other DLC, they come out with something else, like with Kaid and Nomad, where you have this awesome secondary, one of the best ACOGs in the game, high damage, minimal recoil, like the thing was incredible, and then they go on in later and like, yeah, that was a mistake. It's like, what are you doing? It's a secondary. Stop doing this. And so I'm hoping that they've learned their lesson after this, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see. Another change that's coming with this update is that Nomad is no longer going to have access to stun nades and is now going to replace with a claymore. The reasoning for doing so was that apparently the synergy between her gadget and the 3 stun nades gave her a bit too much CC utility. I'm also assuming one of the reasons is that Nomad, if she wanted to, could get rid of all of the Jaeger devices with her stun nades and then shoot her gadget into the objective, which was a little bit too powerful as well. But the downside of this is that by giving her access to a claymore, and Ubisoft realizes this, they kind of mention in the patch notes, is this is also going to give her some more trap potential. Not only if you wanted to, you could place your 3 gadgets around the map to watch your back and also a claymore in a completely different area, so 4 angles are now watched by gadgets, but also if you wanted to, you could set up a Nomad trap. Instead of putting the claymore in a doorway where the defender can clearly see the laser sights, you put a little bit further back, you then launch her air magic next to the doorway so that when they pass on through, it then pushes them into the claymore. There's no way for them to know that this is about to happen. It's incredibly powerful when you're able to pull that off. The thing is though, is that this actually required a little bit of coordination and teamwork before if you wanted to pull off one of these maneuvers, which of course is no longer an issue. And so I don't know if this is going to become the meta for Nomad players. Maybe this becomes a thing that everyone takes advantage of and it's going to be a real nuisance options for roamers, but is definitely going to be something that needs to be in the back of your mind when you are trying to get a flank off and you know that a Nomad is on the offensive team. Now, one change I know that Valkyrie players probably aren't going to be too thrilled by is that you're no longer going to be able to throw her cameras as far. You may have noticed that with this most recent DLC, Ubisoft adjusted the way that you throw gadgets, and the simple fact is that you can throw them farther. The arc of the throw doesn't happen as quickly, and so you're able just to get your goo mines or your Ella gadgets into the exact place that you want it from further away. This also extended on over to Valkyrie's gadgets. You may have noticed her cameras in locations that simply were not possible a couple of months ago. She can quite literally throw this thing across half the map. And so now, as a offensive player, trying to figure out where those cameras are on the outside of a building and constantly getting spotted where it could literally be anywhere. Like, she has the ability to toss these on top of like buildings that are on side of the map. You could put them in trees, like anywhere that you wanted to. These Valkyrie cameras can now be positioned, and so they're reverting the change, I'm assuming, because of that very reason. And so I know that some people are going to be disappointed by this news because Valkyrie really did feel like a new character. You wouldn't necessarily have to learn her from the ground up, but most Valkyrie mains know all the good camera spots, they know where to position everything, but with this new update, there's a lot more possibilities, and so you basically had all these new angles that you had to learn. That's a cool part about Rainbow Six Siege, and they are taking that away. But in the grand scheme of things, I think this is a good change. It was a bit too strong, and so I agree with Ubisoft's decision to kind of tone that down. And then finally, Ubisoft has made some changes to the optimization on destruction. As you guys can see here, it's a little bit different from what it was before, and in my opinion, it looks incredible. Having that ripple effect throughout the sheetrock and the wall just looks stunning. I know this is all subjective. Some people might like the old version, but I gotta say, it looks pretty awesome for the new one. And while this has absolutely no impact on the gameplay itself, all the holes look about the same. I think this is a pretty cool change. Now, one adjustment I know that many console players are going to be disappointed isn't included in these patch notes are any changes to the recoil on Kaid's Shoddy. If you ever played console and you use that weapon, you know that its recoil is ridiculous. It is very substantial, almost to the point where it's practically useless because there's no way for you to get consecutive shots off back to back. It is that insane. Compared to the PC version, it's a night and day difference. Thankfully, Ubisoft is aware of the issue, they've indicated so, and they are going to be fixing it at a later date. We don't know when that will be, but hopefully it is in the very near future. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's little update video. I hope you enjoyed. Give me your thoughts on all these changes. Are you disappointed by the fact that the secondary weapons are seeing a nerf? Are you happy about that change? Let me know down below in the comments. But yeah, guys, until tomorrow, have a good one and take it easy.